I'm Scott Alan Miller. This is my life living in Leon, Nicaragua. As we often have discussions on the WhatsApp Expats of Nicaragua group, we get a lot of questions, and a lot of these topics are things we've talked about previously on the show. We try to present them in different ways to give people different perspectives and, of course, different ways to search on them. And for those who like to watch a show every day, different ways to listen to them, because I realize a lot of things are repetitious. But it is important to drive home, one, a lot of topics that are very important, and two, to reinforce that some of these things remain true, because sure, we did a video a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, that's not true, about some of these topics, and things may have changed. So it's important to have current information, even if it's just reinforcing that things have remained as they have been. And so today we're going to talk about what you need to do when you're first moving to Nicaragua. Of course, this is going to vary by who you are. We're going to talk about for most people, for those individuals who are like, I'm thinking about moving to Nicaragua, maybe in a month, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. I'd like to be a little bit prepared. What do I need to be able to do that? So we're going to cover that on today's show right after the bump. The specific question that came up on today's discussion group was, what paperwork needs to be done? Do you need to get ready ahead of time so that you can move to Nicaragua right away, right? You want to be able to go. And this comes from a very logical place, right? There's a lot of countries that require you to do a fair amount of paperwork, maybe have visa approvals, in some cases have residency approvals. You may need to have certain papers in apostille. You may need to have coordinated with the government of the country that you're moving to in order to be able to move smoothly. In most cases, you could work around it, but it would be a lot of work and potential problems. It may slow your overall progress, but some absolutely require a bit of work ahead of time. And we don't just mean like travel visas. Some countries would be a little bit difficult. So for example, as an American, if I want to move to Bolivia, I must have a travel visa to even pop in and talk to anyone, right? So there's this extra step I need to do. Coming to Nicaragua, we know for travel, we don't need anything. We just show up on our American passport and we are free to be tourists in the country. When it comes to moving, however, we generally assume we're going to need something more. Well, this is where Nicaragua really stands out as being a lot different than other countries. Nicaragua is a move-first country. Now, I made up this term, but the world is basically divided into two types of countries when it comes to moving, to relocating to a new country. One is move-first countries. Move first, deal with stuff later. These are the rarity. And then the other is the prepare first, file and get permission first countries, Mexico being a prime example of that. Not that Mexico's hard, but they make you go through this different process. And it's because Mexico is both so popular and so close to the US that so many Americans assume that this is far more common and necessary than it actually is. Mexico is actually an extreme on the side of you need to do extra preparation, much more preparation than most countries in the region. Now, Nicaragua is the polar opposite. You need to do absolutely nothing. So that is as big a disparity as you're likely to get in the hemisphere. Some places, like I said, Bolivia, actually easier than Mexico to my understanding, but that initial, like if you just want to fly in for the weekend, I can go to Mexico anytime, go hang out in Cancun, go hang out in Mexico City. I don't have to do anything ahead of time to be able to go do that. But if I want to stay, I do have to do some preparation. Bolivia, I actually am able to do my visa at the border, and now I have one ready, but I do have to pay $160 and get this one-time visa in order to be able to even visit for a little bit. Before we dig in too far, just really quickly, if you want to support the show, we've got a number of things you can do, and we really appreciate it. One is you can buy me a coffee. It's like Patreon, and that just helps support the show. It comes directly to me, so really appreciate it. It's a great way to show your support. You can also join our membership, either through Buy Me a Coffee or through right here on Google. Both work fine on YouTube, which is owned by Google. Also, we have in the show notes a number of ways that you can get in contact with me, how you can get to our social media, how you can send in a video of yourself asking questions. We love it when people do that. I'm very behind on posting them, but I love when I get them. And of course, we have a GoFundMe for my producer, Marcela, who has stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. She has been through chemo. She's currently going through radiation therapy. We will get her on the show and give some results hopefully soon. Her last day of radiation is September 4th. We're trying to raise money to help her with all the expenses that come along with that. She's a single mother of 2 here in Nicaragua. So please consider donating on GoFundMe. I know we had some problems with that in the past. Everyone got their money refunded. It is working now. So please go and consider giving. It really does matter. And thanks so much to Luke from his own YouTube channel. We'll link him in the show notes or on the show or something. Maybe I'll be able to pop up a thing, who donated to her a Kindle Paperwhite that I'll get her to bring on the show. And so she's not got books on it yet. She just picked it up. She's super excited. This is a thing that she wanted to get for herself before the original GoFundMe problem. She thought she was going to have the money to do it, and then things went badly. So she had to give that up, and Luke bought this for her as a gift. It was an idea from our live stream. Also, we're just going to mention Thursdays we try to do a live stream, so come join us for that as well. And okay, let's get on to the topic. I've got a good amount of wind going on as I'm recording. A storm is rolling in. It's mid-afternoon, but it looks really dark. I even have outside lights on because it's so dark. And so we're going to get some rain here in just a few minutes. So when you're coming to Nicaragua, assuming you're coming from US, Canada, Western Europe, one of those places that has the super easy. And of course, if you don't know, get in the comments and we'll try to find out for you. This is one. I'm American. I know tons of Canadians and quite a few Europeans. We tend to know our visa situations. There are some countries that have very difficult ones. Not very many of my audience are coming from them. Basically, if you're watching this show, chances are you have an automatic visa here in Nicaragua, meaning you fly in, you do nothing. You just give your passport at the border and you're in. Now, we explain this a lot. I have separate videos that break down exactly what this means, but you get 180 days in the Central America 4 or CA4, never C4, CA4 countries. That's Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. They think of themselves like states rather than like independent nations, and that's actually built into their constitutions. So once you cross the border in any of them, you're inside that zone. Now, how they handle your days within that zone is a little bit complicated, so we're not going to go into it. Assuming you come into Nicaragua, you do some traveling around, but you want to stay in Nicaragua, you are going to get 90 days under normal conditions at the border. You can go anywhere in the CA4 during those 90 days. After those 90 days, you can extend here in Nicaragua for up to another 90 days. And you can do it, it's 30 days at a time. It's a little bit of extra work, and it can be a pain. Some people are like, it's not worth it, and I totally understand. You can go to the Costa Rican border or the Mexican or Belizean borders and reset. Remember, we're considered one country, the 4 states together. So because of that, you have to go outside of that to reset your passport stamp. So during your time here, whether it's the 90 days or you extend to the 180 that you're allowed to go up to, you're allowed to stay in country. And you can do basically anything that you would want to do. You are able to live here during that time. And for those who didn't do the math, that's 3 to 6 months, right? You can do anything. You can buy a house, buy a car, rent a place, go about your business, be a digital nomad, work remotely. The only thing you can't reasonably do is get a work visa. That's never going to happen. It doesn't matter what circumstance you throw out there. Our answer is always going to be no, you cannot get a work visa in Nicaragua. Everyone thinks there must be a reason that they want it and can get it, and neither of those things are going to be true. We've got lots of videos that address that, but the quick answer is no. So you're able to come here and do all the things as if you had moved here, right? Including working abroad. You have a job that you're working remotely in the US or remotely in Canada or remotely in Europe, or an online job, or own your own company back somewhere. No problem. Keep working for them. That's exactly what they hope you're going to come here and do. They don't want you to come here and take jobs because we have an unemployment crisis. So that's the one thing they're never going to be flexible on. Never. Nor do you want them to be, because we have broken down the economics. It will never make sense to want to be manual labor here in person. That is just never going to happen. Even if you're able to work at a call center, even if you can teach something, it is never going to make sense. An English teacher here for the public government is like $180 a month. That's the salaries. You don't want to be doing that. Now, of course, at this point, you're going to say, Scott, I get it. 90 to 180 days, no problem. But what do I do to go past that? That's surely not enough. And of course, it's not. That is hardly a lifetime of moving somewhere. We're assuming you want to move and live here permanently, or at least indefinitely, right? So the way that it works is once you are here, you are free at any time. And some people, like me, that is a reasonable amount of time. We'll call it that. For some people I know, it is 3 times, like almost a decade from what I did. And for some people, like Luke, it's just a few weeks. It depends on your decision making, what matters for you, which factors are important. So there's nothing stopping you from doing your paperwork to become an official resident very quickly, or just waiting a reasonable amount of time and doing it at a pace where just the paperwork you just let it kind of do its own thing, and you don't push, and the government doesn't push, and everyone's okay, like me, that's fine. Or you wait and just stall as much as possible and take your chances that someone gets upset that you stalled too long. That's more or less fine too, as long as you're not actually getting in trouble. It doesn't matter, right? You can choose when you want to go. Now, some people just want to get it done and out of the way. Maybe they want to do something like buy a car or a house, and they know they want to do that early, so they want to move the paperwork along because it might make it a little bit easier. Not because it's a blocker, just because they feel it may make it easier, and that may be the case, so that's fine. Some people don't want to do what we call border runs. We're going to talk about that in a second, and it depends on where you live and what your situation is and a number of factors. There are times that that is also true. Not nearly as often as people think it is, but it is sometimes true. That's one of the risks of any of these things. When something is true once in a while, like 1 out of 20 people, suddenly 10 or 15 out of 20 are sure that they are that 1 out of 20, and that's how we run into a lot of problems. Once you're in country, you are free to do that application for residency. If you do need to go over that 90 or 180 days, right, depending on how you want to handle it, a border run is simply going to, like we said, Costa Rica, Mexico, or Belize, or anywhere farther afield that you want to drive or fly, going into another country and returning. Now, we call it a border run when you're just stepping over the border and stepping right back in. If you're going on vacation to Colombia, spending a week or 2 or 6 months, and coming back, you could classify that as a form of border run, but that's not what people mean when they say that. But you're getting the same effect. You are leaving, getting some time, coming back, and your stamp and your passport is new, and your 90 to 180 days starts again. And you can do that a number of times. And some people like to make this sound like they say, oh, I don't want to do that. That's a loophole, or I'm getting away with it. I don't want to get caught. Those are implying falsehoods. Right? That's a way of making a statement that implies something else that is the actual misinformation. The I don't want to, sure, that makes sense. I don't want to break the rules. I don't want to use a loophole either. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the official, legal, as it's designed process. So when people say that, what we should hear is, did they just call the government a loophole? Like the way the system is designed is a loophole? That's not what the word loophole means, and it's quite the implication as to how the government here works. You would never say that in the US. So I'm going to go file my taxes. Oh, you're going to go through a loophole and file your taxes? No, that's just part of life. You just do this, right? That's not what a loophole is. A loophole is when the spirit of the law says one thing, but there's a way to get through an unintended gap in the law, and it's like almost a trick. That is anything but what's happening. This is the clear, absolute, in your face, as it's designed, everyone does it, mainstream way of handling the pre-residency process for multiple countries. This is not unique to Nicaragua. It's not anywhere in the world is it a loophole. Governments put in a lot of design into exactly how much it's going to cost, exactly how much time it's going to take, exactly where you're going to do it, and all kinds of things. That is the opposite of a loophole. The opposite, right? It is not getting away with something because you are announcing it to everyone. You are following the directions and registering in the most obvious way. The idea that it could be considered getting away with something is so absurd. It is the opposite of getting away, right? I would like to write my name right on this ledger and put in all my information as clear as could possibly be. Did you get away with letting them know everything? What? Okay. So it is not getting away. It is the process. Think of it as the formal requested process by the government. Everything is good about it. Now, some people hate the process. Some people hate driving to the border. Some people hate waiting in line. I mean, we all hate waiting in line, right? That's just a given. But some people really hate that particular wait in line versus other waits you may have to do, other circumstances. So at some point, you want to switch and have formal residency so you don't have to do border runs anymore. Totally makes sense, right? So at any time that you feel like it, and generally we suggest do a couple border runs, see how they affect you, see when you actually need to do them, because for people like me, it ended up being years before I had to do a border run because normal life, visiting family for Christmas, taking a vacation or whatever, would trigger a reset of my passport and I didn't need to do a border run. So I went years before having to do my first border run, did one and didn't have to do one again, eventually got my residency. I did 3 years of continuous living in Nicaragua doing that and just never needing to do a border run except for that one time. And so it really proved to be a nominal thing. People imagine it's going to be 4 times a year instead of 2, and that it's this huge ordeal instead of not, and a loophole instead of the mainstream process. It sounds, right, emotionally, it comes with a lot of baggage, but the reality is it's super easy, very fast, very cheap, and just hard to beat. Most people, once they've actually been doing it, prefer that system, or at least they get comfortable with it and are like, why would I change? While you're here in country, already living in Nicaragua, whether it's a few weeks or a few years, that's when you apply for your residency. It could be retirement residency, it could be investment residency. Very few people choose to go that route once they realize the difficulties of investing, but it can be rewarding, right? Probably not financially, but emotionally rewarding to help out the country by investing. And you do potentially get a nicer residency paperwork bit at the end. I don't know that I would classify it as worth it, but it could be. It's definitely a small nicety, right? And so if that's something you want to do, that's an option, right? But you do all those things while you're already living here, right? So that is the process. And I know that it's very hard to really accept, because it's so easy that it seems like, how could that be the process? Governments aren't this simple. People want to make your life hard. They want to keep you out. That's where you're coming from a different perspective, right? Nicaragua, and I understand that until you move to Nicaragua, why would you think this is the case? But Nicaragua actively wants you to live here. Nicaragua actively wants to make your life easier. When we're dealing with many North American countries, the US and Canada specifically, but Mexico to quite a degree now as well, they're looking to filter out who's coming into their countries heavily. Not because they want to keep you out, but because they want to, one, reduce the total number of people coming into their countries. They actually want to bring the number down. They don't want to get rid of all of them, but they want to get rid of some number of them, right? In some cases, it may be, oh, we'd like to tweak it down by 1%. In others, it's like, we'd like to take 90% off. Those things are true. All countries want to filter and keep people who are deadbeats or criminals out of their countries. Yes, that's universal. But in the case of North American, all three North American countries feel that they have, or at the government level, feel that they have too many expats in their countries. And so are the flock of birds flying over because of the storm. So they're looking to find ways to curtail the inbound movement. They want to make it take a long time. They don't want you there. But if you work hard, you can overcome those barriers in most cases. When we're looking at Nicaragua, it is quite the opposite. They're not getting as many people as they'd like. They still want to make sure they're getting good people, but they'd like to get more of them. The US, Canada, and to a lesser degree, still Mexico, even if you present really good people to them, they're like, okay, look, they're nice, but we still have too many people, right? But Nicaragua's like, nice people? We're okay with nice enough people, right? Like we want more. We're trying to up that number while not letting in actual bad apples, right? So there's this careful balance that still has to be maintained. But the important part is Nicaragua's doing what they can to encourage you. And when you look at the process as is, this is a country who wants to make it easy. They want to make it inviting. They want to not put up accidental barriers to where, oh, I didn't do the right paperwork and now I can't move there. They don't want that to happen. The US, Canada, Mexico, they want that to happen. Oh, you got your name wrong on the form? We don't need you, right? We've been looking for ways to lower the number of people, so that's a handy way. You're just thrown off the stack, right? That's like getting resumes where you have 1,000 resumes for one job. Even if you have good candidates, you're not going to use them, right? So you're looking for any excuse to filter that list. That's how the North American countries are looking at your potential residency application. Nicaragua's like, we need 1,000 jobs and we only got 500 applicants. We need 500 more. How do we encourage more people to file? By making these people go out and tell their friends how easy it was, right? That's the mentality that's going on. And so they want to be inviting. They want the expats who are here, like me, to tell you how invited we felt coming here so that you say, oh, wow, I was thinking about trying out a couple different places. I guess I'll just start with Nicaragua. It's so easy and inviting. Why go to a place that I don't think wants me or kind of doesn't care when I could go to a place that actively is excited that I'm coming to join them, right? That's a great feeling. And if that's the deciding factor, you got a couple places you can't decide between them, that might be the reason you come. So Nicaragua has a big incentive for this. And so understanding that makes things a lot clearer. So there really is nothing. You don't need to prep ahead of time. You can, and this is the thing we always say, you can today, if you're a North American, you have a passport ready to go, assuming you have a good passport with the 6 months available on it and such, you can right now go book a flight to Nicaragua. Avianca, Aeromexico, American Airlines, United, Spirit if they're flying, heaven only knows. Go book a flight right now, Copa, right? You could be in Nicaragua later today, not as a tourist, not as someone looking for the first time, all those things would also be true, but as someone who packed up and on a whim moved to Nicaragua. Literally, you could move to Nicaragua today for the cost of an airline ticket. That's an amazing thing to think, right? Once that's in your head, it changes your worldview. This is one of many countries that I could decide right this second and be on my way later today. That's powerful. Now, I'm not recommending that you move with zero planning, but I do recommend, in most cases, that you move far earlier. Fail quickly. I'm going to talk about that in another video, but quickly failing in this case is a really important tool. It is much more rewarding in most cases to be here in Nicaragua and find out for certain what you feel about your experience here, rather than hypothesizing for a long period of time and trying to get all your things in order. Of course, you have to get some things in order, right? You don't want to just leave and be like, I left, I forgot to pay my last rent, I left my dog with no food. Don't do that stuff, right? Make sure you take care of your life and make accommodations for everything, sell your stuff, do what needs to be done. But don't hesitate on moving. Think about, you have access now. You don't have to wait for a bunch of unknown things. And even if you end up in the long run deciding you want to move to Mexico, why not do all the long process of preparing to move to Mexico from Nicaragua? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up. Do all the things. It really does help. Buy me a coffee. Hit that GoFundMe for Marcela. Share on social media. Watch another episode. That really does help the show. And I will see all of you tomorrow.